Welcome back, and thank you for keeping it with us here on this coverage of the Gen Z commemoration 2024. And it's 2 years after that, and tensions are still, pretty high. This is the Situation Room, and we continue with our special coverage of that, the Situation Room here on KTN this morning. And even as we do with the simulcast with KTN and Spice FM, we will continue with our conversations this morning, looking into a number of things on that Gen Z commemoration. And we're looking at big numbers here: 65, the year after that, 27. And we're looking at huge numbers in terms of what will be spent to compensate the families of those who lost their lives. But beyond that, are the issues that were raised at that time, have they been addressed, or are they still lingering? That'll form part of our conversation as we get into this hour. But before we do that, we're going to do a spot check around different parts of the city. Alan Ochanda, one of our KTN reporters, is in the Mlolongo area, a closet of Nairobi, and we'll hear from him in a minute. And Davis Mberia is also on Thika Road to give us a little bit of an update of what's happening in these two areas, which we already know had been closed off earlier this morning. Very early this morning, we started to see that folks were being checked as they got into the city, and that in terms of moving around, some of those areas have been closed off. All right, we're going to start. Good morning, Alan and Beria. We'll start with you. Alan, good morning. Tell us what's going on in Mlolongo.
Well, Ndu, yes, since around 5:30, all the major roads leading into and out of the Nairobi CBD have been barricaded by police officers. Security apparatus have already erected barricades here, and you can see just here on the ever busy Mombasa Road here at Mlolongo, the police have barricaded, and so only few lorries, of course, those that transport essential commodities, are being checked, undergoing rigorous checking before they can be let go. But those buses, long distance buses, and all the public service vehicles have been completely blocked, and also the personal vehicles. You can see the police are still returning with the barricades here. My colleague Cosmas, we can just move closer there, maybe just talk to some of the persons, or rather the passengers who are traveling. We can see those are some of the long distance buses here. They were blocked. We've actually encountered and met several persons who were blocked from continuing with their traveling here. Remember that some of them have come all the way from Mombasa, far-flung counties here, but on reaching Mlolongo, they could not continue with their traveling because, of course, from the security point of view, that they are just minimizing the converging of persons in the CBD, because that's where the converging point is normally. Maybe we could just talk to some of them here. Dugu, maybe this KTN live here, maybe just tell us where are you from and what exactly are you doing at this point here at Mlolongo stopover here?
Okay, mimi ni mkaaji wa hapa Mlolongo. Ninaishi hapa Kadhangaita hapa. Mambo huku Mlolongo imekuwa mbaya kwa sababu hata tunaenda kazi na tutaweza kuenda kazi kwa sababu ya hii maneno ambayo iko leo. So sijui itakuwaje siku ya leo.
Wewe ulikuwa unaelekea wapi?
Nilikuwa naenda town. Yeah.
Unafaa kufika saa ngapi na pengine kufikia sasa itakuwaje?
Nifike saa 3 asubuhi kazi, lakini sijaweza kufika kwa sababu mambo imekuwa vile ninavyo unaona mahali hapa. Yeah.
Poleni sana, pole, asante. Naam. Well, ndugu, pengine tuzungumze nayo kwenye KTN live hapa. Utueleze jina na umetokea wapi, ulikuwa unaelekea wapi, na pengine nini ambacho kinafanyika hapa?
Mimi naitwa Majaliwa Marua. Nimetoka Mombasa naenda Nakuru. Lakini vile tumefika hapa, tumefika saa 10:30 usiku asubuhi. Na tukawa tumezuiliwa mpaka saa hizi hatujaruhusiwa kuvuka. Na ndani ya basi kuna watoto, kuna kina mama, na wengine sasa hivi wameanza kulia na njaa nini. Na askari wanasema kwamba hao si mapenzi yao hata kuona hali kwa hivyo, lakini wanachunga usalama. Mwingine askari mmoja anasema usalama ni muhimu, hata afadhali tukae hapa.
Kwa hivyo umesema ulikuwa unastahili kufika ulipokuwa ukienda pengine saa ngapi na itakuconvince namna gani?
Nilikuwa nastahili kufika Nakuru saa 12 asubuhi. Lakini sasa mpaka saa hii kufika saa 2 bado niko hapa. Yeah.
Okay. Poleni sana, lakini pengine tutakuwa tukipata suluhu baadaye. Pengine ndugu, tueleze, ni KTN hapa live, watueleze mmetokea wapi na pengine mmefika hapa saa ngapi na mmezuiliwa kwa sababu ipi?
Kwa majina naitwa Shedrack Msao. Mimi nilikuwa nimetoka Kibwezi, nilikuwa nakuja Nairobi. Nilikuwa na expect nifike kitu saa 12, lakini juu ya maandamano hata hapa hakuna sioni namna venye tutatoka hapa juu imechacha kabisa.
Poleni sana pengine kwa kuweza kusitishwa kwa safari yenu. Well, Ndu, just a random sampling here because the persons who are actually traveling from different destinations are bound for different destinations here, really saying they have been inconvenienced big time because of course this is one of the long distance buses here. And, one of them was actually traveling from Mombasa to Nakuru. He was supposed to be in Nakuru by around 6 a.m. but at around 4 a.m. this barricade here was already erected here by the security apparatus here. And so as I indicated earlier is that the long distance buses and the trailers here are being subjected to rigorous security checks here, and so a few are being let to continue with the journey here. Of course, those transporting essential commodities here, long distance trailers here, are being one by one are being maybe released. But for the public service vehicles and the privately owned vehicles here, they are not being allowed just to pass through the barricades here, but except very few. We've also met a lot of people who are actually walking on foot, because remember that Mombasa Road, these are where several industries are actually domiciled, and so we understand that most people here normally travel by public service vehicles here to both to work and from work, and so they have actually been forced to walk on foot to go to work on long distances here. And so we are proceeding along this road to all the way to Kitengela to just establish what is really happening, because remember that the Gen Zs had indicated that this is just a commemoration of what transpired 2 years ago, when tens of their colleagues were actually killed when they converged in the Nairobi CBD, and of course the other major towns in the country where they were allegedly killed by security apparatus. Remember that 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, the president and of course the committee that was tasked with ensuring that the compensation is actually carried out, they did that. But the Gen Zs are saying that that could not avert this particular commemoration, but just ensure that security is actually beefed up in the city and the other towns. These what the security apparatus are now doing to ensure that maybe the groups are not converging in town, because that is where we've actually been witnessing in the past, where the Gen Zs and of course those who turn up for demonstrations and protests normally converge in town. And so to just avert that, they have actually ensured that they block them from the estates here. They could, most of them cannot be allowed into town. But we shall be bringing our viewers to speed with the happenings here real time. We are heading to Kitengela all the way to just check and have a spot check on whatever is happening, because of course this is actually inconveniencing everyone here, because most of them are actually headed to work. Maybe some of them could be unwell. So Ndu, we shall be keeping with the beats here on Mombasa Road all the way to Kitengela. Ndu.
Alan Ochanda is in Mlolongo, and what we hear going to Kitengela in a while, folks have been stopped from getting into the city. And so we'll continue to get an update about what's happening on the